back to Leaders Recon. In the next episode of our education series, we're going to be talking about credentialing assistance, once again with Mrs. Gauthier. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back.
So, I know we talked in the other episode, fun fact about you, but because not everyone may have listened to the last one, let's go through some of that stuff again. You'd mentioned kind of like every male in your family has been involved in military service for like several generations now.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, I myself have not served, but all three of my grandfathers served. My father served. My husband just retired, and both of my sons currently serve. And so I've been surrounded by the military all of my life, and was really excited and happy to get my first job working for the Army back in 2009.
So, real question that I have though is, right, because you mentioned before that your husband was an infantry officer, right, or infantryman. Mm-hmm. So I'm an infantryman, right, much earlier on in my career. How do his knees feel now that he was at 20 years here? You know, I'm just like, that's what they always tell me, like, oh man, my body's gonna hurt really bad. That's what I really want to know, you know.
Absolutely.
Give us the insight.
3 combat tours later, he's feeling it everywhere. So thank goodness for some VA disability, that's for sure.
But anyway, so all things aside though, we're talking about credentialing assistance today. So, you know, we had talked in a previous episode about federal tuition assistance. Now we're talking credentialing assistance. You had mentioned it's the same pot of money, but quite a bit of different uses. Can you tell us, like, what is credentialing assistance and how can soldiers use it?
Absolutely. So credentialing assistance is, again, a voluntary off-duty program where the Army will pay for certifications, licenses, and credentials for a lot of different industries out there. And so it's really exciting because we had realized that, you know what, not everybody needs a college degree. And so the Army, you know, finally kind of saw the light and decided, why aren't we offering to pay for these industry recognized credentials versus only paying for college degrees, because not everybody needs a college degree or not everybody wants a college degree. So this is a really exciting new program that just came into existence in January of 2020.
Oh, wow. So this is like very new.
This is very, very new. And so there's a lot of soldiers out there that still don't even know about credentialing assistance, especially some of our, you know, older members that have been in for many years, you know, since this wasn't a thing that existed when they came in. They may not even still know about it. So
you had mentioned before that same pot of money, so $4,000 a year for credentialing assistance. Now, I know you mentioned there's a lot of different stuff out there. Can you kind of give us a range? Like, what are some of the things that you've seen come through your office as the program manager?
So one of the very first things that soldiers have to realize is that the credential has to be listed on the Army Cool website.
Okay.
So the link will be in the description below, and you know, we encourage all soldiers to go ahead and go to the Army Cool website, and there they can see the 1,688 credentials as of today.
Oh, wow.
That are listed on there. That's why it's way too hard to describe all of the different credentials that they could do, because there's so many. But we definitely have some credentials that are more popular for our soldiers, you know, that we'll talk about. And you know,
what are some of those that are more popular?
Absolutely. And so our top 3 out of 5 are CompTIA. So as you can imagine, information technology, IT certs are in extreme high demand. And so we have so many soldiers out there that are in the IT field, and we can totally cover them to be trained and examined, you know, on CompTIA, Network Plus, Security Plus, all of those different CompTIAs. Certified personal trainer is really popular. So of course we have a lot of master fitness trainers out there, and people that are really just into, you know, fitness. And so, you know, why not earn some extra money on the side and become personal training certified and go work at your local gym. And so that one's really popular. Project management professional, PMP, is really popular, especially among our officer corps. Anybody who's had EXO experience, you know, automatically is really good at project management and those type of things. And then private pilot license. That is one that has been, ever since it came out, it's been very popular for a lot of our soldiers to want to pursue a private pilot license.
Yeah, this is like helping me expand my horizons here. Like, oh man. And so now when it comes to requirements though, what do soldiers have to do to qualify?
So unlike our new exciting news for federal tuition assistance, where you can use that program without basic training and AIT, for credentialing assistance, you do still have to complete AIT. Or basic officer leader course, or warrant officer basic course. And so you do have to complete those basic requirements before you're
Okay.
eligible for the program, and of course not be flagged and in good standing.
So, but I mean, that's pretty easy. So just complete your initial entry requirements and don't be flagged, and you can do credentialing assistance. How is the time and service requirements? Is there one?
So the only time and service requirement that we have for credentialing assistance is the time that you need to serve to complete that credential. So if you sign up for a credential and you say that you need a year to complete it, as long as you have that certificate of completion or exam completion submitted prior to you leaving, then you would be fine. But if you leave before submitting your completion document, then you would be recouped back. But the exciting news is there is no officer service obligation for credentialing assistance.
Okay.
So that was just removed October of last year. So any officers that had used credentialing assistance prior to October of last year did accrue a service obligation that was in line with the federal tuition assistance one. But they've now recognized that they want CA to be not necessarily a transitional, tool, because we don't want people to leave, of course, the Army at all. But they recognize that, we don't need to have this service obligation for people to use this program, because the goal of it was to make them more eligible for better jobs on the civilian side.
No, I mean that's really good to know, though. I mean, because you can, from what I'm understanding, you can build a bunch of different credentials up to $4,000 worth per year. Now, one question I did have, because you had mentioned the timeline for it. So, like, let's use a private pilot's license, because that's on my bucket list, right? So, like, let's say I'm like, okay, I want to get my private pilot's license. I think it's going to take me 6 months, right? And it's going to cost me more than $4,000. So I request all $4,000. Now, does that $4,000 get paid to me, who then pays for the credential, or is it paid to the credentialing agency?
Yes, it is definitely paid directly to the vendor.
Okay.
Neither tuition assistance or credentialing assistance is ever paid directly to a soldier.
Okay.
So the Army's not taking that chance and giving that money away. They go directly to the program, vendor there. So you made a good point. Private pilot license, a lot of people are like, oh, they'll pay for it. Yeah, $4,000 a year is not going to pay for a private pilot license. I mean, those are up in the tens of thousands of dollars to get a private pilot license. So we do want soldiers to really do their research and think about that before they commit to a program, because we don't want someone committing to a $10,000 program and we're only going to pay $4,000. That leaves a lot of out-of-pocket expense for the soldiers. So we do want them to be very careful about what they choose to pursue. But there are a lot of vendors out there that will work with soldiers, and sometimes they'll phase up the different portions of training so that maybe you can take advantage of part of it during this fiscal year, another part the next fiscal year, and so on, so that you can stack those credentials to get the bang for the buck.
Well, and then how does it work? You mentioned recoupment, right? So, like, let's say I didn't complete it in my 6 months, right? Then do I owe back the $4,000? Like, how does that?
So again, not every credential is $4,000. So, I mean, we have some credentials, an exam out there that you might need to take for a credential that costs $90.
Okay.
So we're not saying every credential out there is going to be the max amount that you can get. I mean, some people can take 10 credentials a year, all still under their $4,000. And so, but if you do say, we tell soldiers when you sign up for your credentialing assistance request, give yourself the max amount of time. And the max amount of time right now is 1 year. 1 year from the day that you apply. So even if you're doing a program that should only take you 2 months, why not give yourself an end date of 1 year in case something happens and you need to extend, your training or... I saw it coming.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so, if you need to extend your training at all, don't pigeonhole yourself into saying that I'm going to complete it in 2 months when the Army is giving you a year to complete it.
Okay.
Because you can submit your certificate of completion anytime during that year. You're not held to that whole year. It's just whenever you do submit that certificate of completion. Unfortunately, if you do get out or you fail that exam or training or whatever, that's when the Army is going to say, well, you didn't complete your requirement on this, and then they could come back and recoup that money from you.
Now, so a lot of these licenses, exams, and you said the Army Cool website, I mean, is where I really need to go to find out like the details of it. But if I'm trying to get like a real estate license or some other professional licenses, those sort of things fall into this category, or?
So unfortunately, the real estate is not going to, and neither are teacher licenses. And part of that reason is that for those two examples specifically, they're state specific. And so the Army and the Army Cool program is only generally going to pay for nationally certified licenses and certificates.
Okay.
So you're not going to find those state specific programs because real estate, you know, it's very state specific and depends on where you live, and same with teaching. And so unfortunately, you're not going to find all of those kind of licenses in here because again, the Army wants to pay for something that is transferable. If you know, because remember these are also programs for all three compos.
Yes.
So this is active duty, this is Guard and Reserve. And so of course, for the active duty side that are constantly PCSing and moving different ways, they want them to have credentials that are going to go with them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, it makes sense. Now, how does the application process work for these credentials?
So we have a brand new website, Army Ignited. Again, will be posted in the link below.
New Army Ignited,
New
right?
Army
Okay.
Ignited, brand new Army Ignited. So brand new that unfortunately right now, Credentialing Assistance is not yet in the new website.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So right now, Credentialing Assistance is on hold until right now they're saying approximately the end of this month. So by the end of October, because this is being played in October of 2022, you know, that the website should then be up and running for Credentialing Assistance requests to be put into the system. Soldiers do have to register 30 days in advance of their start date for Credentialing Assistance. And so most likely when the site goes live at the end of October, they won't be able to submit requests probably till December with any, you know, start date starting until then. So again, because the system is so new, we don't have all of the specifics quite yet of what the application process looks like. But generally, we want the soldier to go to Army Cool, look at the credentials. The biggest thing with looking at the credentials is you do have to look at the minimum requirements for that credential, because not every soldier is going to be eligible for the 1,688 credentials that are in there. A lot of them have some minimum requirements, like so many years of experience or some credentials build on other credentials. So they want you to have a specific credential before you can go for the advanced version of that credential. So in the Army Cool, it will show all of the different credentials. Then it will show a eligibility summary of what a soldier needs to have to be eligible for that. And another really cool thing is if a soldier really likes what they do, there is an MOS search too. So you can put in your MOS and it will show you credentials that are even tied to your MOS.
That's kind of interesting, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a really good tool. Now, I guess, you know, being a program manager, seeing a lot of these things come across, you know, do you ever have like common mistakes that you see soldiers making when they're trying to apply into stuff that you might just be like, hey, like, here's your tips, you know, for how to make sure that this process goes smoothly for you?
Right. And so one of them is, again, just having been counseled by, you know, their education services specialist or officer in their state, because again, some of these programs can also be used with federal tuition assistance, state tuition assistance. Like, we want to make sure that whatever credential they're pursuing, they understand what they can do with it, how it can be used. Is it really worth it for them? You know, like all these soldiers that want to do private pilot license, is that really something that you yourself are going to use? You know, is it,
that's a good point.
You know, is it the right thing for you? And so, you know, we do want soldiers to be smart, you know, about what they're going to be funded for and not wasting their time or their money on things that they don't need. But the same thing can be said for degrees. And so, you know, we're glad to have this option, you know, for soldiers to be able to go and be welding certified, you know, versus needing a whole college degree for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a really good point, because there's a lot of skills out there that you can get that, and I feel like this really encompasses like a lot broader scope, honestly, than like the federal tuition assistance did that we talked about in a previous episode. So, Well, did you have any other resources or recommendations you wanted to provide to soldiers related to credentialing assistance?
So yeah, I mean, one of the big things is that if soldiers need more resources, we have an Army National Guard Education Handbook that we
Okay.
put out every single year, and so we have a brand new one for fiscal year 23, and maybe in future years if you're watching this at a later time. So we put that out every year, and we do want soldiers to get a hold of that handbook.
Okay.
It's digital, and so hopefully we'll send you the link and you can have it available to the soldiers, just because there's so many benefits out there that, again, soldiers join usually for education benefits, and sometimes that means credentialing benefits too. So we want soldiers to not leave any of this free money on the table. We want
no.
soldiers to take advantage of this, because again, even credential completions can also be promotion points. There's certificate completion that can be counted towards promotion points, and it can help them get better civilian jobs on the outside. So we want soldiers to take advantage of all these great programs that we offer to them.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like I'm thinking about this, I'm like, man, you mean I could have been spending $4,000 a year on certificates and credentials?
Absolutely.
Well, ma'am, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing some of this great information for soldiers on credentialing assistance.
Thank you.
If you would like more information on any of the topics discussed today, please visit our social media pages in the links below. Tune in to Leaders Recon over the next few weeks as we bring in today's leaders and pioneers to discuss their experiences, share their wisdom, and help you grow as a leader. If you like this episode of Leaders Recon, please don't forget to subscribe below and leave us a 5-star review. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.